One of the first pieces we're reading in this Introduction to Literature course is a story called Girl by author Jamaica Kincaid. I have a picture of Ms. Kincaid on the screen in front of you, and I wanted to point you to something I'd like you to start doing as you read each of these pieces that are in your Norton Anthology. Your Norton Anthology is this big textbook. Even though it's called the shorter 13th edition, all of the Norton anthologies are huge. And for most of the stories that you read, you will find author's biographical information at the beginning of each piece. So on page 675, you'll see the same picture of Ms. Kincaid, and there you'll be able to read a little bit about her. It's always going to include birth and death dates, if applicable. So she is still living. She was born in 1949. And as you read through this biography, you will learn that she was born in Antigua, a Caribbean island, and was brought up in poverty. And you start to see some of the things that might come up in her writing in the piece that we're going to look at today. And she left her island, moved to the United States, and changed her name to Jamaica Kincaid. So knowing more about the authors and their lives, their upbringing, where they went to school, what they did after school, can help you start to see themes in what they write about and how they choose to write it. So Jamaica Kincaid's story, Girl, is sometimes also called a poem. And what you might start to notice about this particular piece is that it's very short. It spans pages 676 and 677. And you will also notice there's not a lot of punctuation, and it pretty much reads as one long sentence. One of the things that I talked about when I talked about reading fiction is characters. So we have two primary characters in this story. We talked about tone, what is the mood that's created by the story, and we talked about setting. So since we are reading a piece that is written by a woman who grew up in the 50s and 60s in the Caribbean, we can start to see some of those influences creep into this piece as well. We don't know for certain if the girl in this story is Jamaica Kincaid, but I would wager that there are certain aspects of her in this particular story, though we can't prove that without her saying, yes, that's me. So I'm going to read it through for you, and I want you to look at, as I'm reading, there are two lines in this story that are italicized. The entire rest of it is just separated by semicolons. So as I'm reading it, and once you read it and you get to those two italicized portions, ask yourself why those two italicized phrases stand there and what they might mean. Wash the white clothes on Monday and put them on the stone heap. Wash the color clothes on Tuesday and put them on the clothesline to dry. Don't walk barehead in the hot sun. Cook pumpkin fritters in very hot, sweet oil. Soak your little clothes right after you take them off. When buying cotton to make yourself a nice blouse, be sure that it doesn't have gum on it, because that way it won't hold up well after a wash. Soak saltfish overnight before you cook it. Is it true that you sing Binna in Sunday school? Always eat your food in such a way that it won't turn someone else's stomach. On Sundays, try to walk like a lady and not like the slut you are so bent on becoming. Don't sing Binna in Sunday school. You mustn't speak to wharf rat boys, not even to give directions. Don't eat fruits on the street. Flies will follow you. But I don't sing Binna on Sundays at all, and never in Sunday school. This is how to sew on a button. This is how to make a buttonhole for the button you have just sewed on. This is how to hem a dress when you see the hem coming down, and so to prevent yourself from looking like the slut I know you are so bent on becoming. This is how you iron your father's khaki shirt so that it doesn't have a crease. This is how you iron your father's khaki pants so that they don't have a crease. This is how you grow okra far from the house, because okra tree harbors red ants. When you are growing dasheen, make sure it gets plenty of water, or else it makes your throat itch when you are eating it. This is how you sweep a corner. This is how you sweep a whole house. This is how you sweep a yard. This is how you smile to someone you don't like too much. This is how you smile to someone you don't like at all. This is how you smile to someone you like completely. This is how you set a table for tea. This is how you set a table for dinner. This is how you set a table for dinner with an important guest. This is how you set a table for lunch. This is how you set a table for breakfast. This is how to behave in the presence of a man who you don't know very well. And this way they won't recognize immediately the slut I've warned you against becoming. Be sure to wash every day, even if it is with your own spit. Don't squat down to play marbles. You are not a boy, you know. Don't pick people's flowers. You might catch something. Don't throw stones at blackbirds because it might not be a blackbird at all. This is how to make a bread pudding. This is how to make ducana. And this is how to make pepper pot. This is how to make a good medicine for a cold. This is how to make a good medicine to throw away a child before it even becomes a child. This is how to catch a fish. This is how to throw back a fish you don't like, and that way something bad won't fall on you. This is how to bully a man. This is how a man bullies you. This is how to love a man. And if that doesn't work, there are other ways. And if they don't work, don't feel too bad about giving up. This is how to spit up in the air if you feel like it. And this is how to make quick that it doesn't fall on you. This is how to make ends meet. Always squeeze bread to make sure it's fresh. But what if the baker won't let me feel the bread? You mean to say that after all, you are really going to be the kind of woman who the baker won't let near the bread? So again, question marks, semicolons, but reads as one long stream of thought. So again, we have those two lines that are italicized that seem to be somebody else's voice. And most of this piece seems to be directions from someone. Now, the title of the piece, as with all titles, is important. The title is Girl. We can assume that the girl in the story is the girl who is being talked to or taught. And we don't really know if she's responded. Some of you might read this and believe that she's actually saying those italicized words back. Some of you might read this and believe she's only thinking it. And I don't know that this is set in one time period or over many years of learning how to be a proper person, a proper woman in this society. So it is full of directions. There are 3 references to her becoming the slut that whoever is talking to her knows that she will be. So there's some condemnation happening in this story. And you want to start asking yourself, who is it? Who's talking? We can assume it's probably a parental figure of some sort, maybe a grandparent or a mother or a father. Would this be coming from a mother? Would this be coming from a father? It does say your father's pants, so it leads me to believe that it's probably a mother or matriarchal figure in the family. And how does the girl respond to these pieces? How do you respond to hearing some of these directions? Obviously, this is written in a different setting. There are some references to words that you might not be familiar with, foods that you might not be familiar with, or traditions you might not be familiar with. But the overall theme or message of this is definitely instructing a young girl on how to be proper and what that entails in this particular society. And I want you, as you've read this, to think about maybe the said and unsaid ways that you've been taught to be proper in your own upbringing, whether that's by parents or teachers or coaches or grandparents or church members, people in the community. There are often ways that we discover how to be or not to be as we grow up. And sometimes those are overt, direct statements, and sometimes they're subtle, and sometimes they are said as insults, if you will. So think about that, and I'm going to have you do a little bit of writing on that. I'd like you to consider writing your own piece like this about the type of directions you've been given about what it means to be whoever, a girl, a boy, an athlete, a mother, a father, a sister, a friend, a scholar, and try your hand at something like this. So that's a little bit about Jamaica Kincaid's Girl.